Thank you, Lone Ranger. This is the George Thomas Clark podcast, and we're delighted this afternoon, this rainy afternoon in Bakersfield, to welcome Jesse Portillo, a veteran radio personality and teacher. Jesse, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for invite. I'm very pleased to say hi to your audience.
We should tell the audience a little history. In addition to being a writer and now a podcaster, I, for many years, was a teacher of English as a second language for adults, and I had the pleasure for 5 months of teaching 3 days a week over at Jesse's office and that of his wife, Mariposa con Proposito, which is butterfly with purpose. They do professional radio teaching as well as community nonprofit work. And Jesse has a school called Hablando Profesionalmente, which means speaking professionally. And Jesse, tell us a little bit about, most of us don't really know what takes place in a school for aspiring radio professionals. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. Hablando Profesionalmente, it's been on my mind, on my heart, to share it with regular people that would like to, incursionate in professional communication. And what is about in this course, which takes place at my office, and it's about 9 months long. I call it experiential teaching, experiential learning, because it's not only didactical teaching, but it's hands-on. It's having each student having the experience of becoming a professional speaker.
I see. Now, I noticed that you have about 10 students per session. I assume that is good for a student-teacher ratio. And also, how many hours a day or how many days a week does this go?
Yeah, okay. There is three modules that we teach. In the first and second module, which is kind of didactical at the beginning, and then starting in the second module, we start more hands-on. The idea behind this way of teaching is that the student has the opportunity to learn the basics of the communication industry, radio and TV, and also, as you know, that nowadays podcasting, internet radio, social media streaming, it's so popular. People more than ever need to learn the proper way to communicate, because now anybody can have a chance to go on live and say something. But the idea behind our course is to allow the people to teach them the right way to do it with the basic principles, and learning how to speak and entertain the audience in the most professional way.
Well, I can empirically state that Jesse is fully qualified to teach this class. I was given the opportunity by Jesse to do about 3 advertisements, radio advertisements, or Facebook-style radio, for a local funeral company. And I was a total rookie at the time. And he was able to not only write the script, which I tweaked a little bit in English, and then coach me, and I needed a lot of it, and also work very skillfully on the soundboard to put together a very professional sounding radio broadcast. And although I'll tell you, even though I thought mine sounded pretty good, after hearing yours, Jesse, in Spanish, I thought, uh-oh. So why don't we segue from that point into a little bit about your background as a professional DJ.
You know, my career started when I was 14 years old, and all started with inspirational sound that I heard when my mother was listening a local radio station back in my hometown, Guatemala. And since then, I was inspired in the way that this DJ was talking, telling, stories, and especially, he enlightened me in a way of doing something that my mother asked me to do. And I did it in an impeccable way that my mother was astonished. She says, "Wow, how do you learn to do this?" So I did by the guidance of this DJ. So since then, I started my career. I started on a local radio station in my hometown, cleaning. Remember those? Now it's kind of a museum piece. Those LPs and vinyls that used to be really easy to get scratched. So the idea for me was to clean them up, and get it ready for the DJs.
Well,
that was my first gig.
That reminds me of what for me is an interesting and humorous memory, although there are some friends and acquaintances who wouldn't find it so. I, as a teenager, when I was getting into my party days, I would go over to people's houses, and with the best of intentions, I would put their records on the stereo, and I would scratch them up. And that's one good thing about modern technology. We don't have to worry about scratching people's records, because record owners tend to get irate when people scratch up their records. So,
that's right. So I that was back in the 70s. But when I got my first professional gig, it was early 80s, when I was turning 18, when I went to get a couple of courses on the local college at my hometown, and since then, I have been working on radio stations, radio broadcasting, and also on TV, and it's been fun. A lot of learning. I have been, lucky to work with big and huge names in the industry. I remember Rick Dees in the morning. There is one guy that I like it to hear a lot when my early days when I arrived to Los Angeles back in late 80s. Thomas and Tom in the morning. It's the Morning Zoo. Tom and the Morning Zoo. Jay Thomas. As a matter of fact, it was the name of this DJ. I don't know if you heard about those personalities that they inspire me to better prepare myself, because those guys were so dedicated. And since then, I was so successful on my morning shows when I was full-time DJs. Then I became program director. Then I became a consultant. And I had the pleasure here in Bakersfield to open a couple of stations. I don't know if you heard about Radio Lobo, which opens in early 90s. And then, in 2007, I opened. Well,
Jesse, let me say about Radio Lobo. Oh, remember that?
That's right.
I remember that from my 1990s teaching. The first decade of my professional teaching career, I wanted to learn Spanish better so I could communicate with the students, and I would listen to both radio and TV. And I remember the and I would make that noise, and the students would always laugh because they knew I was alluding to Radio Lobo. Now,
That's right. You know what? One of my coworkers, his nickname was Brown Bear. He came up with the idea of giving an animal name to the radio station. In that way, we get out of the norm. And the people received that idea so well that it's still at this date, Radio Lobo is still a really popular radio station. And the other one, it's from American General Media, which is La Caliente 96.9. And since then, I've been very successful directing radio stations, accomplishing, and the people have been very key on this element, because, without their support or audience, I haven't not become number one in each market that I had the pleasure to work. Los Angeles, San Francisco, Atlanta, Miami, Chicago, and also here in Arizona, in Phoenix, in Yuma, in Washington State, in Tri-Cities, and Seattle. And here in Bakersfield, I have been working since early 90s. And you know what? I fell in love with Bakersfield, and so I have a beautiful family here, and
Jesse, did I hear you say you fell in love with Bakersfield?
yeah. This kind of hot and cold city, are out of my norm because my hometown is tropical, and all the time we have a really kind of spring kind of weather, and it was a really big challenge for me, But I like Bakersfield. I have a beautiful family. As you know, my wife Clarita. She
Yes.
has been with me, and as a matter of fact, we have a show together that is still on the air on 96.5 La Ley, which is a sister station from Radio Lobo. That we offer that show every Sunday at 8:00 in the morning. So I invite you to listen to it, and for the local all-time flavor.
I will. We all, or many of us, joke about Bakersfield. Bakersfield has certainly been good to me. I arrived here in 1991, and it's been great for my teaching career, my writing career, and socially. It's been quite well. It's worked out very well also. Now, Jesse, we've talked about your background. You obviously know a lot about the business, the production and the on-air portion. How do you start training students?
Since I began, I had a chance to be with very popular and powerful people on the broadcasting industry that I asked some questions, and I started to write. My idea is always to create something for people that wanted to get into broadcasting industry, to speak professionally. I didn't find any material that speaks, from the very basics to learn to the most complicated ways of doing broadcasting. So, I started to write something since early 90s, and my wife were saying, hey, why you don't do something with the information you have? And finally, it took me almost 20 years to decide to teach it for myself, and we started Hablando Profesionalmente back early in 2018, and since then, we have been teaching 4 generations already. That some of our students already are on the local TV and radio personalities, and we are very happy to have many students around the United States, and some of them are very famous, and that have been taught from me and Clarita, and we are happy with that, because we want to create new personalities for the new generations to come.
Now, what are some of the activities and exercises that a student would do in order to learn how to become an on-air personality? What do you do in the classroom?
The first thing that that I encourage any people that wants to get into the professional communication is to read a lot. We need to know a lot of stuff, because air personalities, either from radio or TV, needs to know a little bit of everything, and then work on the voice as the singers does. There are a lot of exercise to help our voice. If you have a really low voice, how to enhance your voice, how to, if your pitch are so high, how to get it low. And so we have some exercise that has proven that support many students to get a really nice and gentle voice and strong voice and that kind of voice that you want to hear.
Yeah. How long does the program last? How many months and how many days a week? How many hours a day? And how long does it last?
Well, the course is taught in 9 months. We get together once a week. The class lasts 3 hours. So we get into class at 6 p.m. and we ended by 9. And the people are so pumped up by 9 p.m. that they don't want to finish because, it's really fun to be learning communication because, you always thinking about something new, creative, the creatives have. So that makes a class really, really enjoyable.
I can imagine. I can imagine the energy. I notice from my, you and I did 5 podcasts, Tom and Jesse podcasts about politically analyzing the Democratic primary as well as Donald Trump. We talked a lot about
Correct.
the coronavirus and other things. That got me pumped up. The aforementioned advertisements did the same. And I think that, without a doubt, led into my involvement in podcasting. Now, I would assume that the students, in the process of getting pumped up and doing these classroom activities, are doing actual recordings and hearing their voices and the voices of their classmates.
Yeah, they practice online. We have a full equipped radio station, and we transmit over the internet, and people around the world, they can listen to them, and having the experience of working in the real radio environment. Also, at the same time, what we are doing something a little sophisticated here because we do it also in conjunction with the social media interaction. And what this is creating a really nice environment because, a regular radio station, the only way that you can, get in contact with the DJ is through the phone if you are lucky that the DJ answers it. In social media, it's really interesting because, there is a lot of interaction between the DJ and the public, and that makes it more fun. We have a very successful students, DJs, that they have very successful programs like La Rocola. A couple of our graduate students conduct the show, which is Lucy Love and El Chaburruco, which is their nickname. And they are very successful, and the people love them. In one given transmission, they had up to 39,000 visits per show. Just imagine that.
Yeah, now Chobaruka I met. He's a bearded fellow. And who is the other person?
Lucy Love, which is Lucy Juarez. She is. She also works in the FM called Radio Láser. She is also a professional DJ already and sales representative. So she's doing great. And we have other graduates that are already working on the media as well.
Yeah, I have tuned in a number of times to your Facebook page, Big Radio Pro. And I've checked out some of your young talent. There's a young fellow named Israel who doesn't he broadcast with Chobaruka sometimes in La Rocola?
Yes. Well, actually, they made a new program now that we are, trying to keep ourselves home. What they are doing a Saturday night kind of party show to entertain the people in their homes, and which they do it through social media because, the COVID-19 reframing of being social active, they're trying to come up with some ideas to entertain our public in their homes. And they are doing pretty good. It's called Zona X.
Oh, so it's another show.
It's another show, yes.
Okay. And I think he's a good guy to keep an eye on. He seems like he might have that star quality that
as a matter of fact. As a matter of fact, on Israel, he was about to get contracted in Los Angeles, but this COVID-19 came up in the middle, so he's on hold. But pretty soon he will be on the airways in Los Angeles area.
Oh,
so
really?
I'm
well, that
very
would be
excited about him.
That's right. That would be a great break. Would he have been like a disc jockey? What kind of?
Yes.
What kind of station?
He will be on a bilingual station that it's called Mega 96.3 in Los Angeles. So I'm excited about him because there is a lot of bright future for his young career that he's just about to start.
What is Israel's last name?
Padilla, Israel Padilla.
Is he related to you? Oh no, you're Portillo.
No.
Excuse me.
Yeah, I am Portillo. Kind of.
Yeah. Okay,
okay.
So Israel Padilla. Remember that name. And Jesse, we'd like to thank you for joining us this afternoon. And I want to tell you, if you have any more of those gigs with the funeral home for little advertisements, I'd be delighted. Just give me a call.
Yes. They are coming pretty soon.
Okay, Jesse Portillo of Mariposa con Propósito and Hablando Profesionalmente.
Yes, thank you, Tom. I really appreciate the opportunity to say hi to your public. If they want to get a hold of us, and in the near future they might want to incursionate in the communication industry, check out our home website. It's bigradiopro.com. There is a lot of information in English that it can help you to be guided in different aspects that we do, as you mentioned. My wife and I, we have a nonprofit that we support the local businesses trying to get back in track, especially in this hard time of the COVID-19. So keep in touch, bigradiopro.com. I am very happy to be here. Thank you, Tom.
All right, Jesse, take it easy.